Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Jody here, your Wednesday host for FTRealM, and I'm at work, and I'm trying to get this video done where I have some good light. So hopefully I'll make it short and quick so I can get it done and over with, even though I feel really strongly about this topic, but I'm going to try and keep it quick just due to work. So this week's topic is trans discrimination, and as Ren talked about, he talked about some work discrimination, that kind of he went through, and then just kind of overall in general. And so, living in Idaho, gender identity isn't included under any protections under the law. Currently, just like a few months ago, there was a campaign to add the words gender identity and sexual orientation to legal protections under the law, where you couldn't get fired for being trans or you couldn't get fired for being gay. But unfortunately, overall in the state, that didn't pass. They shot it down, which was really weird, since a lot of people seem to be really kind of for it, like all the politicians, but then it ended up getting shot down. But the city that I live in, last year they passed a non-discrimination ordinance specifically for the city I live in, and so it covers sexual orientation and gender identity, where you can't get fired for being trans, and then it protects like your housing, like you can't be discriminated against for like trying to buy a house, you can't be stopped going into a bathroom or anything like that, and that's passed in a few places around here, a few cities in the area where I kind of live, and then another city that's about 45 minutes away from where I'm at. They passed a similar ordinance, except for it doesn't include public spaces, so like restaurants, public restrooms. Like, people can literally stop you if they have suspicions about your bathroom choices, and then in public they can discriminate against, but they can't like fire you for being trans, and they can't fire you for your sexual orientation, but they can like kick you out of places for those things, and then they don't have to let you use the bathroom, which is really weird. But my personal experience with it is, at work, at all the jobs I've had, pre-T and then being post-T, I've been lucky to really work for some awesome people where they just don't give a shit. They have HR policies in place for how to transition on the job. In one job that I quit just in the fall, which was really cool. I never came out to them at work, but they had it there, and I wasn't really worried about it. I just knew I was going to be quitting, so I didn't really stress too much about it. And then the current place where I work, where you can see, they don't know or anything like that, and I don't think that they would care even if they did know. I think I'd have to probably do more explaining, since one of my managers is a hardcore hippie, so I think she'd be cool with it, but I think there'd be a lot of questions and stuff like that because she's quite older. And then school's been super cool. I transitioned my senior year of my bachelor's degree. I just finished my second year of my graduate degree, and all the professors I've been around since pre-T and then post-T have all been really cool. So there's been some confusions with some pronoun slip-ups here and there, but other than that, like, they're totally cool. And I've never felt unsafe on campus or anything like that. There are policies on campus for safe places, and they've done a lot of training for the counselors and some other departments and stuff, so it's been really cool that they're educating people on the trans community, as well as, having certain things in place, which is kind of odd thinking about where I live, because I live in a really conservative state, but the city I live in is actually quite liberal to a certain extent, and I grew up here, and so I've actually seen it change, so I can literally say it's a little bit more liberal than it was even when I was growing up, and then I left and came back years later, so it's pretty cool. But my thoughts on it is, discriminating against anybody just fucking sucks. And so And the trans community and the LGBT community get picked on the worst because they're the minority, one of many reasons, but that's pretty much it. And so the status quo can pretty much be like, fuck you, this is what we're going to do because you don't fit our pretty little boxes, our pretty little categories that we want you to fit into. But I think that as, more trans people gain recognition, like Laverne Cox, Bruce Jenner, all of the trans guys that are running for Men's Health Fitness on the cover of the magazine, they're putting themselves out there and that exposure in many different venues. And I think the more familiar people get with the trans community and the people educate themselves more as younger generations are coming out early and earlier, because there's more resources available now that have been pioneered for so many years, that people aren't going to be all freaked out about somebody identifying as trans or telling you that they're trans in any way, shape, or form. My stance on trans discrimination is that eventually it's going to go away. It's just going to take quite a bit of time. Like, I think the trans community today is experiencing some of the similar discrimination things that, like, homosexuals, the LGBT community was experiencing, like, back in the 50s. And so we have a long way to go, but the more people are aware that there's different types of people that exist and people get out of their black and white categories, then the discrimination will end, and then you're going to see, like, an entire movement. I mean, even with, marriage equality and stuff like that occurring, almost everywhere, not everywhere yet, but almost everywhere. Like, that's going to be a pretty normal thing where gay marriage is legal, and eventually that's going to lead to the trans community being less discriminated against, because it's not going to be, like, abnormal or weird to people. Like, it's just going to be, okay, like, that's cool, whatever. It's going to be like an everyday, not like an everyday thing, but people are going to be more familiar with the term transgender. And so that discrimination is going to kind of dwindle away. Are you going to still see discrimination? Yeah, because there's always going to be assholes out there. But overall, I think once the public becomes aware that there are other people out there that exist on the gender binary, and they educate themselves, or they, get educated through experiences or whatever, I think that that's going to start to go away. So I was trying to keep the video short. I didn't really keep it that short, but if you guys have any questions or anything like that, let me know, and I will clarify some of my thoughts. All right? See you next time.